In our first interview today, we're taking a look into the impending CEBA loan repayment deadline and its potential consequences for women entrepreneurs and marginalized business owners. To enlighten us on the matter, I'm joined by Liliana Camacho, Director of the Better Way Alliance. With her background in economics and deep dedication to business sustainability and social impact, Liliana brings a unique perspective to the discussion. Welcome to What She Said, Liliana.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
So let's start with a brief overview of the CEBA program and the current terms of repayment.
Okay, so CEBA stands for the Canada Emergency Business Account Loan. It's known as CEBA Loan. Essentially, this is a program that was offered by the federal government to small business owners during the pandemic to help cover any sort of business expenses. With the exception of wages. So typically small businesses could take it to cover things like supplies, rent, any sort of ongoing operational expense. The program was designed to be partially a grant for qualifying businesses and then primarily a loan. So up to $60,000 was available to small businesses. And if they paid back by a certain deadline, they would qualify for up to 33% loan forgiveness. So for most businesses, that means $20,000 was forgiven. They were on the hook for $40,000, and then they could pay that with no interest. So there has been no interest charged on this loan until now. CEBA was originally supposed to be due actually last year. It was extended by 1 year. And that was thanks to a lot of the work done by numerous business associations and groups in Canada. It is now coming due, and the portion that is coming due actually is the $40,000 or however much would not be forgiven. So it's pretty confusing. Essentially, a business could qualify for $20,000 of loan forgiveness provided they pay the entire $40,000 by December 31st of 2023. If they don't manage to pay $40,000, then they, number one, get interest charged on the entire amount outstanding, and number two, have until December 2025 to pay it off. They do have to pay off monthly interest charges. It's a flat interest rate of 5%.
And it's the full amount as well, right? It becomes if they don't pay off the 40, then they're on the hook for the full 60,000.
For the full 60,000, yes.
Okay, so based on the data, women and business owners from marginalized communities faced, as we all know, disproportionate challenges due to the pandemic. So now it's time to pay back this loan. So can you delve a little deeper into the unique challenges that women and marginalized business owners are facing now?
Yeah. So as you said, women and marginalized business owners, they were disproportionately affected for a number of reasons. One is that they tend to work in the sectors that were hardest hit. So there are a lot of women who own businesses in food service, for example, cafes or restaurants, catering industry, tourism and hospitality. So that's like hotels and tourism organizations. Service industries as well, small retail. So things like a gift shop on your main street or a nail salon, those sorts of companies were shut down and they were not allowed to open while other businesses were allowed to stay open. So larger businesses could operate. These small businesses were the last ones to open. So they've had a lot longer time that they haven't been able to work. So that means haven't been able to make money that they could pay off their loan. Also with women in particular, many women took on more childcare duties and domestic responsibilities than men did. And that means that they've had less time to put into their business. So again, anything like service, if you don't work, you don't get paid. They tend to also be, I would say, have fewer resources and access to finance. So less financial knowledge, for example, less connections, just less financial acumen to understand how to manage their cash flow, for example, less advice on how to manage their finances. Black business owners, in particular in Canada, have also had to shoulder disproportionate amounts of debt. So going into the pandemic, they already were carrying much more debt than non-Black business owners. And then adding on a CEBA loan, which they expected to be a grant, they now added on, up to $60,000 more worth of loans to service.
And it's not like we just jump back into this robust economy either. I mean, the economy has been struggling to regain ground, and that means those business owners are, by extension, struggling to gain ground.
Yeah, absolutely. For every business owner that I've spoken to in our network, they all tell me the same thing, and that's that their costs have gone up and significantly. So business has not bounced back for most of those business owners. They are still, doing less sales than they were before, and now their costs have risen. So for a lot of them, they just don't have any free cash flow left over to put towards debt right now.
And what this means is, obviously, as we all know, I think, is that a lot of businesses will go out of business, myself included, by the way. I have a CEBA loan to keep the show on the air through the pandemic, and that is now coming due for me. And what that will mean for this show in the future is, I don't know. I'm not sure yet. I'm struggling to answer that, as everybody is. So what can we do about this? What's the government saying? Are there any possible solutions? Is anybody looking at an extension?
Yeah, that's the question of the day, isn't it?
Well, I would like to.
Yeah, I mean, you and every other business owner who has a CEBA loan. We really don't know. The government has been very quiet on this topic. They have for sure, they have seen the advocacy that we have done. They've seen the CFIB, that's the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. They've been very vocal, and they've been leaders in CEBA and getting the first extension, first of all, and additionally to try and get some sort of new terms that are favorable to small businesses this time around. There was also a petition that was put out it was signed by more than 250 signatories across Canada, and those included almost every chamber of commerce in every province and territory. The government knows that there is a lot of pressure, that businesses everywhere are facing challenges paying off. And they do know that CEBA loans are disproportionately affecting women and marginalized business owners. So they are aware of that. I think that, the challenge is how to manage that for them. I have no indication of whether they are thinking of revising the terms or not. So we're asking for a few specific things that would help. One is an extension of the loan forgiveness period. So if after 2023, businesses can still qualify to get some of that loan forgiven, that would be a big help. That would mean, say 40,000 instead of 60,000 until 2025, for example. Waiving of the interest rate would also help, so that businesses will have more cash available to pay off their principal instead of servicing the debt payments. Basically any little bit would help. In terms of actions to take right now, there are petitions available. We have one online at cebaloanrelief.ca that business owners can sign, and that sends a copy to the ministers of finance, to our prime minister, to the ministers of small business, telling them that you're a small business owner and you need CEBA loan support. So I do encourage you, Candace, to send one in. And reach out to your MP, so that's your federal member of parliament, and talk to them about your story. The more that ministers and MPs hear about businesses' experiences and personal anecdotes, I think the more powerful it comes across. And there are some financial institutions that are starting to offer CEBA refinancing loans. So this is something that, I want to express a word of caution around, because they are not as safe as what the government is offering. The government, if you don't qualify for loan forgiveness, the perks, I suppose the upside of what the government's terms are, is that it's a fixed interest rate, and it is not personally guaranteed. So those are really important things for businesses that need some sort of financial consistency and need to be able to plan ahead. Particularly for women, in addition, if a woman business owner takes out a refinancing loan that is personally guaranteed, which means that you have to say, if I don't make this payment, you can have my car. If I don't make this payment, you can have my house. That puts a woman in a really precarious situation that we don't want any business owners to be in. So like lots of caution around that. We highly recommend to look at different options that you might have before going into a personally secured loan. And then the other thing is when you're considering a refinancing loan is play around with the different interest rates that play around just with, experiment with what your interest rate threshold is. So some products might be offering a variable interest rate, and that means that the interest rate might change. So it might rise over the 3 years of your loan. You should figure out how much you can afford to pay before you sign on to that loan, because if there will be a ceiling in terms of the interest rate that the monthly interest payments that you can make. So you might be able to afford an 8% interest rate, but you can't afford a 16% interest rate. So you need to just make sure that you've got some cash available to afford whatever interest rate might be coming your way.
Lots to consider for sure as the deadline approaches. And I think I speak for many who have this loan. We're going to drag it out to the last possible moment to make a decision because we're hoping the government is going to make some changes. I can't thank you enough for joining me today and shining a brighter light on this, which is going to be a huge problem for many people. I know that you're talking about it and advocating for change. If people want to connect with you and find out more, where's the best place for them to go?
They can take a look at CEBALoanRelief.ca. So that's CEBA loanrelief.ca. So we have a petition there that you can sign that I mentioned. We also we've explained what the disproportionate impacts to women are, for example, and what we're calling for. You can also check out the Better Way Alliance website. So that's betterwayalliance.ca. You can follow us on Twitter, now X, at BetterWayCan. Instagram or Facebook at Better Way Alliance.
All right, wonderful. I'm going to put all of those links when this goes live on podcast. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks a lot, Candace.